Before you prepare for programming interviews, there are a couple of patterns that you should be familiar with. We have already discussed a couple of patterns in the previous episode. For example, we have discussed how you can insert into an array and delete from an array in O of 1, meaning in constant time. And we have achieved that by utilizing and using the last position in the array, because if we insert something to the last position in the array and remove from the last position of the array and get items from any place on the array, then we stay at constant time. The question back in this previous episode was how are we able to utilize only the last position in the array? How come we don't need to insert into the middle of the array? And we have answered this in the previous episode. In this episode, we are going to discuss another coding interview pattern, the multi-data structure pattern, specifically a combination of a set and a list, or a map and a list. This pattern arises when the interviewer asks you to come up with a solution to a question. Usually it's something like, please come up with a solution where you can insert items in O of 1, where you can get items in O of 1. Right now we already know it could be a hash. And then there is a punch. And then there is another requirement that we should get a random number from the data structure or from the object, also in a constant time. And that the probability for getting any random number from the numbers that we have received in the input should also be a constant time. The problem with this is that up until item number 2, where we were required to insert items in O of 1, to get items in O of 1, we thought, okay, we could probably use a set or a map, but then comes the twist that we need to get a random item from the data structure or from the object in O of 1. And then we understand that we cannot really use a map or a set, because also the requirement is that all items have the same probability, meaning that when we get a random item from the object or from whatever data structure then that we have, then the probability of getting each item should be the same. So here comes the pattern for the programming interviews of combining a map and array, or combining a map and a list. So for this question, where we needed also to return any random item from the numbers that we received, and for them to have the same probability to be returned, we are going to combine a map, a hash map, and an array. So the thing is this: to insert items to the map and to get items from the map, it's O of 1. To get a random item with probability, equal probability for all the items from an array, it's also O of 1, because all we need to do is to ask for any item, for a single item, from the indexes of the start. Let's get a random item from random number from 0 to n-1, and then we would return this item. One of the things about this pattern is that the map is now going to store as the key the item that we needed to insert or to remove, and the value would be the index in the array where we store this item. So let's say we store item number 5. So we go to the map and say map.put 5, and then if our list is empty, then we put something on index number 0, and then the value of this map item would be 0. So 5 is 0. Then we need to insert another item, let's say 6. Then map.put 6 is the key, and the value is going to be the index, which is going to be the new item in the array, which is going to be index number 1, and so forth. And when we remove items, then we first find the index, we need to remove them from the array, but in order to remove them there from the array, we can utilize the previous episode where we discussed how to remove and add items to an array in a constant time. Basically, we always replace them with the end of the array. So this was the multi-data structure or multi-algorithm for programming interviews as a prerequisite for solving programming interviews question.